Hello everyone, I'm Chloe Johnson and welcome to this Fresh Business Thinking webinar series, Lockdown Learning for Businesses, supported by BT. Fresh Business Thinking is proud to be a part of Skills for Tomorrow by BT, which is helping 10 million people in the UK make the most of life in the digital world. Working with us and other leading digital skills, enterprise and community organisations, BT has created and collated some of the best advice, information and support in one easy place to navigate. It's easy for anyone to access our webinars as well as discover other ways they or their family and friends can grow their confidence and their skills to make the most of tech. All it takes to get started is to head to www.bt.com/skills for tomorrow or by clicking on the link in the comment section. Coronavirus has been a real challenge for small businesses and entrepreneurs across the UK. At Fresh Business Thinking, we're used to putting on events, sharing expertise and encouraging and supporting networking. Throughout the pandemic, we knew this simply couldn't just stop. Perhaps more than ever, this is a time when as a business community, we need to come together and support one another. And we're lucky enough to work with organisations and individuals who are passionate about supporting entrepreneurs during this difficult time. One of those is our speaker today, Mark McClure, a founding director of specialist loyalty agency Stream. Mark has over 25 years' experience in the world of loyalty, engagement and digital communications. He is a thought leader and shaper and regularly speaks at seminars on loyalty strategy, customer engagement, channel relationships, and overall performance improvement. Today, Mark will explore how to use loyalty as a means of setting your business apart from your competitors and how it can help you to keep, grow, and even win more customers for life. Mark will be talking for around 40 minutes and then we'll have some time for a Q&A session. If you do have any questions, you can leave them in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen and we'll do our best to get to them later on in the session. There will be a poll towards the beginning of the session. Please note that this will be answered anonymously. That's all from me and I'll pass over to you, Mark.
Thanks very much, Chloe, and welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us on this webinar on loyalty, which frankly is a very hot topic at the moment because keeping the customers you've got could not be more important to people. So I thought before we started, I would just do a quick poll of those of you that are on the live show and ask the very simple question, does your company currently have a loyalty program? And I will wait a few seconds to get some answers. Because if you haven't got one, now could be the time to think about it. And if you have got one, well, hopefully what I'm going to talk to you about is ways of improving and refining. So I'll just leave a bit more time just to give you a bit more background. Stream is a loyalty specialist and we've been in this space for 20 years. Our expertise lies in trying to help you to keep, grow, and even use loyalty to win more customers. So I'm going to talk to you about some of our ideas on how to do that, how to help you stand out from the crowd. I'm going to start by giving you some statistics and then talk to you about some of the examples of loyalty programs, some of what's been going on recently, and then some ideas on how to implement loyalty, common mistakes, top tips, steps to making your program start or even improve. And then we'll just do some takeaways and there'll be some time for Q&A. So looking at the poll currently, it seems that most of you don't currently have a loyalty program, which is possibly why you've come on to go, what is loyalty all about? So we'll come back to that poll at the end if we can, or it'll be shared when we conclude the session as to what the results are. But at the moment, we've got quite a lot of people not having a loyalty program. So I'm just going to take that off my screen and move on. So the loyalty poll results at the moment were saying that 80% of you didn't have a loyalty program. So what is a loyalty program? And loyalty is very often thought of as a simple points program where you earn and redeem. Obviously, we're all probably most familiar with this in the retail world. So if you've got one of those, then you're definitely running loyalty. But as many of you say you haven't got a loyalty program, I will therefore ask the question of you, if you are doing any of the following, like, are you offering your top customers special discounts or even special delivery terms or any sort of special terms, potentially quicker resolution times for customer service or preferential service timings if they call up and require something servicing or special delivery, etc. Or if you're running any sort of incentive and promotions, then you are involved in some degree in loyalty. You may have a VIP club without knowing it. You're running incentives and promotions, so you are trying to promote customers spending more with you. So today what we're going to look at is loyalty and look at ways of helping use that to stand out from your competitors. First of all, let me give you some background on the world of loyalty with some statistics. So these are data statistics taken from a range of different sources, which I will show you in a few slides. So I haven't made them up, I swiftly add. And these are quite interesting stats. So first of all, amazingly, 87% of customers want a loyalty scheme. If asked the question, would you prefer a company with a loyalty scheme? There's an overwhelming, resounding yes. So there's no doubt that loyalty schemes are popular. And in fact, 46% of people actually consider it as part of their purchasing decisions. Now that may be more prevalent in the retail world where there are more loyalty schemes out there. But interestingly, 46% of people would actually make a decision to buy from someone with a loyalty program. And then once you've got one, you'll find that a large percentage of your audience, 64%, will change their buying behaviors to try and maximize the benefits that that program gives them. And in doing that, around nearly 50%, 49% of them will spend more once they join. So quite good evidence that loyalty schemes are popular and that they encourage change behaviors. 65% of your business comes from your existing customers. And once you've got them on board, 56% of people will stay very loyal to those brands, and particularly those brands that understand them and speak to them in a way that's a little bit more personalized. And once you've got a loyal customer, they will spend 3 times as much with you. So they are a very important part of your business. And once you've got them, they're more likely to recommend you to their friends or business colleagues, depending whether you're in the B2C space, the consumer space, or the B2B business space. So without a shadow of a doubt, happy customers who feel that you've got a good way of looking after them and understanding them will recommend you. And talking about sort of understanding them and giving them a good experience, you'll get over 5 times more likely customers to buy from a company that they feel they get a great experience from. Now, 82% of companies, when pressed, agree that retention is cheaper than acquisition. But it's very interesting in the marketing space, and I imagine we have many marketers listening to this, that we focus a lot of energy in the marketing world on acquiring new customers. And we talk about this being a little bit like the leaky bucket syndrome, that if you've got a lot of holes in your bucket, you keep having to turn the tap on harder and faster to fill it up. Whereas if you could focus on blocking the holes, you wouldn't need such a big bucket or such a big tap, or you could have a big tap and a bigger bucket and more customers. So it's interesting that not enough is arguably spent on loyalty and getting business from the customers you've got. In the B2B space, and I don't know if we've got some of you in the B2B space, it is a little bit more around relationships. And so you ask yourself, well, do transactional loyalty schemes work for me? They don't have to be transactional. So 80% of customers will buy on relationships and customer experience in the B2B space. So how can you focus on delivering that? And interestingly, having thought of all that, only 23% of B2B marketers claim to actually have a customer-centric structure. So they're too focused on selling product and service and arguably not focused enough on relationships. And this is probably the most interesting statistic, that if you increase your customer retention by just 5%, this is a Bain and Company research, that you can increase profits by up to 95%. So it's significantly more profitable getting business from an existing customer. So by retaining more of them, you can grow your business significantly. And if you think about that and the other way in terms of the effort taken to acquire new customers, you can understand why a focus on keeping customers and creating loyal customers that will then refer you can be very profitable. So this will be available in a takeaway if anyone of you want the takeaways, but these are some of the sources for these statistics, just so you don't think I made them up. Right. So let me just give you a little bit of a background of where did loyalty start? And it started a very long time back. In fact, it can be traced back to the early to mid 1700s, where in America, American retailers gave away copper coins, which their customers could then bring and use as a discount off a future purchase. So in having a number of copper coins, that retailer or purveyor of goods, because he probably wasn't retailing them out of anything resembling a store, would give you a discount. And that existed for quite a long time and was quite prevalent across America until in 1891, there was the invention of the green shield stamp. Now, those actually, if anyone's old enough to remember, those came in another form to the UK in the 70s. And you used to shop at supermarkets, and they would give you reams of these stamps that you then stick in a book. And it was the beginning of the UK retail, effectively the UK supermarket retail discount schemes. Next came in 1929 the concept of a box top coupon, where people would cut coupons off the top of biscuit boxes. I think it actually started with a baking competition in 1929. And this became the way of doing promotions for a very long time in the marketing space, doing box top coupons. So where do we go from there? I mean, I'm going to jump forward quite a long way now to the 80s, and where we started to see the beginning of the airline loyalty programs, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. And that was followed quite swiftly by the hotels. So the airline program set up their executive clubs, trying to persuade customers to fly with them. They could then earn miles, which they could then redeem against flights. And that concept has evolved and developed, and you've seen those brands actually starting to amalgamate. So where they didn't have the reach, they've amalgamated with like-minded, similar brands. So you've got One World, which comprises of a whole fist of them. And those have now become really a very good benchmark of how loyalty started. Then the hotels did the same thing. So you've started to see all of them issuing cards, and those have actually evolved quite a bit, and I'll come back onto that. So that was in the 80s. Then looking into the early 80s and the early 90s, and moving into 2000, we started to see the advent of retail programs. So we saw the Homebase card to start with. They've been through an interesting journey and are back as Homebase now. The club card came out in the 90s, and that was very much taking data and trying to drive offers through data. So they've become more sophisticated, but now you'll still see a lot of people with a fistful of these cards in their wallets. And one of the statistics that's quite interesting is that I think the average consumer is involved in something like 13 loyalty programs without even knowing it. So you probably question that yourselves. But if you sat down and went through all the various things that you are involved in, from your supermarkets to your Nectar points, from your petrol through to your air miles, through to anything linked to your bank, you'll be surprised at how many loyalty programs you're involved in. And in the 2000s, we started to see the points programs that sort of covered more than one retailer. So Nectar were really the pioneer in this, in terms of, I think that was born out of Sainsbury's and BP, and they got a few brands together where you could earn effectively a more global currency that went across several brands. And that was the same with Avios. Avios was the old Air Miles scheme. It then moved out of being Air Miles and moved across to being across a variety of brands. It's now ending up being back in the BA fold. So it's been on an interesting journey too. And then in 2007 and leading up to sort of towards the current day, we started to see the advent of the pay to access concept. So in 2007, Amazon Prime launched out into the market in the US and in the UK. And the concept, I'm sure some of you are members, you paid to become a member. And the benefit of that for them was that you get free delivery. But that actually cost them an awful lot of money initially, but they got an awful lot of customers. So they've now captured an awful lot of customers who have paid to become members. And the same holds true with your banks, for example, and even your supermarkets now are enabling you to join, get free delivery by paying to be a member. And the banks have got different levels of accounts that you can join. So that concept started in 2007 and has evolved. And in 2015, we started to see the advent of loyalty going onto apps. Some of that was just taking the card concept and putting it into the app environment. But the entire digitalization of loyalty programs has become very popular, and not surprisingly, even more popular in the last 6 months. We've also started to see partnerships and affiliations. So I'm not sure if that's in the way. So we've seen things like British Airways have actually partnered now with M&S. So if you're on a BA flight, you can actually use your Avios points that you earn through British Airways to redeem on M&S. So partnerships like that are evolving. Hilton Honors is now enabling you to spend your money on various other goodies. And Domino's have even gone so far as giving the ability for customers to start to convert points into shares in the company. Quite extreme, quite novel, but people are using the concept of partnerships to refresh programs. So where are we today and what's changed? What we've seen in the last 6 months is a big push towards companies using the ability to redeem points for charity. There's actually a new fintech here set up in the UK called For Good Causes, which is enabling you to redeem points from multiple programs and decide which charity you want to donate them to. And it's obviously adding a totally new dimension to loyalty programs and doing a great deal of good with surplus loyalty points. There's an awful lot of loyalty points out there in the market that aren't used. We've also seen, not surprisingly, in the last three to 6 months, a lot of scheme changes. So either extending schemes or lowering price points. And this is across both the consumer and the B2B space. So we have clients that we're running programs for where we've extended them, we've changed the price points. We're using loyalty now to support getting customers back to work. And that's something we'll talk about a little bit more. And then we're seeing much more of the surprise and delight. So Marks and Spencer's has just relaunched its Sparks program. And I'm sorry, a lot of these examples are coming from the consumer space because they're easier to talk through. So I'm just going with these. So they're doing surprise and delight rewards, but they're also doing giveaways. So not only will you get things personalized to you, but they're making charity donations every time you buy. They're giving you the chance once a month to win your shopping basket for free. And they're actually doing a big quarterly give out where they're giving thousands of pounds to spend in store. So people are really getting clever. And this is how programs evolve and how you keep your audience engaged. So I'm just going to give you a few examples. We've got 7 types of examples of ways of implementing loyalty. And if you've got something already in place, then this could be a way that you could evolve it further. So starting off at the beginning, we have what probably everyone is used to, which is the simple points system. And that's probably the most utilized program format. You're used to that in your retail space, where you buy something, you get some points. It's simple, and therefore it's a simple way of launching a program because you don't need to explain it. So even if you're in the B2B space, we often do this in the B2B space, we forget that our customers, whilst they're a business customer of ours, when they go home, and sometimes they're already at home in this environment, they are a retail customer. So they understand the concept of a simple point system. So it's very easy, if it suits your business, that to launch a points program without needing to explain it very much. We want to reward you for your loyalty. We're going to give you some points based on your transactional spend. Now, the thing about points is that anything that can be measured can be rewarded. So it doesn't just need to be transactions. It could be a number of different things, stretching from watching videos, undertaking surveys, giving you a referral. There's an awful lot of things you can reward with points. The most important thing remember to begin with is to keep it simple. And then you've got to decide what you want to reward, how you're going to reward it. So what are points going to be displayed as? Are they going to be displayed as points, or are they going to have a financial value? Are they going to be a pound or a dollar? And then you need to explain what you're going to be able to redeem those points on. Now, if you're a business that makes something, then it has a similar perceived value, but a much lower cost to you for it to be a redemption off a future sale or off a free product, because obviously you're delivering that product to the customer at your margin. at your cost, at your wholesale cost. Whereas if you're giving away a third-party product like an Apple product or other brands that are available, you are likely to be paying 90 to 100% of that cost out. So rewards can take many shapes. Point systems are easy to understand, but if you make them too complex from the out, then you will lose the customers before you've even got them. So it's a great place to start and to evolve. Just going to have a quick drink. So next up is a tiered loyalty program. Probably the best example of this is what you see in the airline world, where you have different tiers. So different customers are in different tiers. Obviously, that's easily overlaid on the first example I gave you, the point system, and it can provide initial benefits to new customers. So you could actually, reward people for signing up. It enables you to provide enhanced benefits to different categories of customers. So your loyal customers, you can reward more. You can reward people more for changing their buying behaviors. So you can use it to try and promote, if you achieve this and do this, then you can move up to the next tier. And of course, for your VIP customers, it enables you to put them in a special pot and give them some special treatment, whether that's a special service or some rewards. And obviously, you've then got lots of different options. So it's much more, has much more ability to be complex and cater for a complex business. And it also proves to customers that you are appreciating their loyalty, whilst effectively giving them a nudge to try and move up to the next level. This is something that we're seeing quite a lot, and I mentioned this when I talked about British Airways, Marks and Spencers, for example. People partnering with each other. It can be like that in the retail space, or it can work in the B2B space. So it could be, if you're a B2B business, think of whether you can partner with any non-competitive companies in your sector. Could you provide an offering where your two offerings are joined? It's a good synergy. It helps you go to market. 1 + 1 effectively equals more than 2. You could even do it as a one-stop ordering process. So if you've got any e-commerce, you could build their products into your e-commerce platform. You could allow loyalty to be earned on both partners, or you could actually provide a partner that you could redeem your loyalty points, if it was a point system, against. So find partners who provide a service you don't, use that to add to your offering and make 1 + 1 equal more than 2. Key things are to make sure that obviously they're non-competitive, also that they fit your brand values. So that's probably going to be your biggest challenge, making sure that they are synergized with what you're trying to achieve. And of course, the third thing that's key is that that combined offering must add value to your customers. Pay to join VIP programs. We talked about this, but are there customers that you've got that you could charge an upfront fee to become a member of your VIP program? It's very probably the answer is yes, if you were to sit and think about it. But the key things are, will the benefits that the customer sees deliver real value? Is it value for them? And if they see benefit in your services and products, then they will probably go for it. In doing that, you're obviously tying your customers in, but they are going to expect something for what they're paying. But if what you're giving them has a higher perceived value than what they're paying, then that's a real win-win. And you can create really good wins from this and really stand out from your competition. Particularly if you're in a really competitive market, this could be a very good approach for you. And don't forget that customers like to feel that they're part of a VIP program. And even if they have to pay for it, as long as the rewards outweigh the costs, they will probably be very happy to do that. Next thing is to look at engaging your community. So there will be customers who actually go, well, I don't see value in financial benefits. And in fact, I'm not really allowed to accept them because that doesn't fit with our business ethics. But what I would like to do is see extra value in services, and perhaps in recognizing my levels of business, there are things that you can give me that are actually services. So it could be that you're then delivering free service contracts to them. It could be that you're delivering in the same way that we talked about the pay to join schemes, it could be you're going to deliver them, you're going to give them special delivery terms. So that works very well where you have the ability to provide a very high perceived value service to your customer at very little cost to you. So a non-monetary program can be very, very good if you've got the right level of service or product offering. It won't necessarily apply to all. Gamification. So gamification, a well-used word in the marketing world, if those of you who don't know what it is, it's effectively creating the desire to do something in the same way that that we all like a competition. So if I put an offer in front of you that requires you to do something, the chances are I'm going to appeal to a part of your character that says, I'd like to do that. So it doesn't need to be linked to rewards like points or money. Sometimes actually just getting a little badge that says, TripAdvisor, for example, do this very well. You give a number of reviews, you'll suddenly get a badge. And what they're doing is gamifying the concept of you engaging more with their brand. So think about how you can create that sort of loyalty by motivating actions. And going back to the tiered schemes, sometimes that works. For people go, I just need to spend another X to get to that tier. So I want to do that. You've gamified that concept to me. I want to take that little stretch to get to that next level. And people like being rewarded for it, and they like to stick a badge on their LinkedIn profile or something like that. Just think about how that could work for you. And then finally, and this is the bold move, is if you've got an incredibly unique product or offering, or if you have complete market dominance, then you don't necessarily need to have a loyalty scheme. Your loyalty is that your product is so good that your customers are eagerly awaiting your next evolution of it. And nobody has a better example of that than Apple, where customers are queuing around the block on an annual basis to get the latest version of their phone or iPad or MacBook. But do remember that you've got to keep evolving your product. Thinking that you've got market dominance and that your customers will be loyal to you without you needing to do anything could be misguided. So, Apple don't have a loyalty program, but do they have a loyalty strategy? Absolutely. And that strategy is we need to keep evolving. In the same way that if you have a loyalty program, you need to keep evolving it. So I'm now going to give you what we call our 4 pillars of loyalty. I'm giving you lots of stuff here, and there's some opportunity to ask some questions at the end. But I'm just going to rattle through these. I've lost my headers. So number 1 is keep a focus on your best customers. So identify who your high potential customers are and who could have the biggest impact. So these are the guys you want to focus on. You want to focus on how you can keep them loyal, how you can get them to the next level, how you can get them to ultimately give you feedback and refer you. And that's the sort of nirvana, is how do you use these guys as champions? And talking about the gamification and the recognition, tell them that they're your key customers. Tell them that you want them to help you to improve your services, products and services as a business, but also the way that you reward them for their loyalty, and actually see if they can promote and refer customers to you. Second, create a compelling value proposition. So, like in anything in life, it's a mix of reward and recognition, but it's also about understanding what your customers want. So make sure your proposition fits with your brand, but that it's also what your customers want. So we don't do this enough in business. Put yourself in the customer's shoes. So one can get very tied up, and we've seen this a lot in this space, with developing a loyalty program that you get very excited about as a business, thinking this is just what my customers want. Stop, take a breath, step back, and look at it from your customer's point of view. Segment them all down and work out whether it fits for everyone. So make sure your proposition is what customers will want. Then create this foundation of communication, which is all about collecting and collecting relevant data and analyzing it, and analyzing every element of it. So look at how your customers are engaging with you, when they do it, what time, where from, what their communication preferences are, and then use that data to shape your communications ongoing, because the more personalized and relevant your communications will be, the more you're going to have engagement. And the biggest mistake people make is chucking out a lot of communications that aren't personalized and over communicating. And if you do that, you've actually slightly putting your customers off. What you need to do is put just the right amount and create a really good reason for them to keep coming back. And then most important of all is measuring. So the number of programs that are put in place that then don't work because people aren't measuring them, that's what it's all about. It's about continuous improvement. So rigorously measure, look at the data, segment it, work out what's working, what isn't, and make sure that you are continuously developing your program. So as your product develops, so should your loyalty program. And continuous improvement is absolutely key. And of course, you'll make mistakes along the way, but learn from those, learn from the mistakes, cut them out, and then iterate what looks successful. Because there isn't a nirvana solution, but you can absolutely make these things work with focus and attention. So this is also another interesting point. And for those of you that are marketeers listening to this, you'll like this. Loyalty actually is not just an asset in terms of the fact that it keeps your customers, but it actually can be a tangible asset. So having a loyalty program has a tangible value. There was a very good example of Caesars Entertainment when they went into administration. They were an online gambling company. They had a plethora of, I think it was about 40, I can't remember the number, a very large number of members in their loyalty program. And that was what was worth the value to the purchaser. It was the data that sat in the loyalty program, all the membership, all the understanding of what people did and didn't like. And that was actually the tangible asset that the purchaser of that business from the administrator paid for. It was the loyalty program and the data that sat within it. So you can CapEx this, which is effectively capital expenditure. Go to your FD, finance director, CFO, and talk to them about whether you can get some capital expenditure budget to spend on a loyalty program, because it's going into it, it becomes an asset on your balance sheet then. And that will delight you marketeers who are struggling to make your operating expenditure marketing budget stretch. See if you can get some from your FD, because you can actually CapEx that. And then you've got it's a tangible balance sheet asset. Right, rattling on, because I've already been talking for 26 minutes. I'm just going to go through some common mistakes and some common tips, and then talk about how to go about implementing and improving your programs and making them stand out. So common mistakes are that customers can't earn rewards. And by that I mean, and I think some of you can possibly identify this with the Nectar program. You get the Nectar card out on a regular basis, you use it for the entire year, and then you realize you can get a free croissant from Sainsbury's at the end of it. So the rewards are just not achievable for some customers. If you've got to spend too much to get a tangible return, you're just not going to engage in it. So once you've got customers earning, get them redeeming. Make sure it's meaningful, and then get them redeeming, because once they start to see the value in a program, they'll engage with it. But often that's the mistake. They can't earn the rewards. They don't understand how the metric works. And even this next bit, which is redemptions are too difficult. It becomes actually too painful to redeem the loyalty that I've got, because I can't work out how to do it. The engagement's too clunky. The process isn't slick. And actually, the entire process isn't really worth it. So I've then disengaged, and you've actually created a negative effect where what you were trying to do has actually backfired. Little or no personalization. So this is absolutely key, especially in the B2B space. You've got to look at your customers and segment them and try and work out what will appeal to what segment of customer. Don't treat them all the same, because no customers are all the same. And particularly in the B2B space, you will have your key Pareto principle of the top business coming 80% of your business come from 20% of your customers. You need a different approach to those, to the big chunk that are giving you the other 20%. So personalization is key. Lack of clarity. So if I don't really, and this again comes back to the first 2 points, if I don't know what I've got to do to reach a target, earn a reward, and you're not communicating with me, then I'm not really clear, so I sort of disengage from it. Whereas actually using the gamification techniques, as people get close to achieving a reward or they're getting to a tier balance, talk to them about it, tell them what they've got to do next, personalize that communication, make sure that that pathway is clearly communicated, and you will start to see customers making that extra step. But if you don't have clarity, you will fail. And then finally, the biggest disaster is the investment not being directed properly, because you're spending money on this, but because you're not looking at the data and you're not personalizing the approach to customers, you can end up spending money, and you'll have budget holders or CFOs further up the line asking for what is the return on this investment, and the investment is basically potentially going in the wrong direction. So make sure you can identify who your high potential customers are, and direct the investment towards them. And this is the worst mistake, which is if you don't structure your program properly, 77% of loyalty programs have been seen to fail in the first 2 years. And that's because people have gone, I think we need a loyalty program. Let's not put too much thought into how it goes about. We'll do this and it should work. And of course, making the 5 mistakes or more that I've just mentioned can result in that failing in the first 2 years. So, hold on. So I'm going to give you a few tips for getting it right, and then we'll come on to some next steps. So first of all, these are countering some of these negatives. So ensure that your customers understand the journey. So start off and keep it simple. If you don't have something in place, keep it really simple so that you can launch it to your customers, you can get them engaged, they understand what they need to do. And as you go through that journey, you will start to see that customers do engage, and you can then start to put more complexity into your schemes and programs. So first of all, ensure that they understand what they need to do. The second is the counter of what I said earlier, which is make sure that rewards are achievable. So if you're going to, customers who are redeeming are 6 times more likely to invest in it. So if they're seeing a benefit, they'll suddenly get behind it. We saw that in some of the statistics right at the beginning. So when you set your metrics, make sure that you get that metric right, so that you work out and put yourself in the customer's shoes of how easy is it for me to get to a point where I'm engaged in this and that I can see a tangible benefit in a time frame, and I know what actions I have to take as a customer to achieve that, and I'm happy with that, and actually I can see real benefit in it. So make sure that whatever you're doing is achievable, and make sure it's easy to redeem. So once I've got to a point where you've told me if I do this I'm going to get that, then make sure it's incredibly easy for me to get that, and preferably even actually just tell me that it's coming to me if it's that simple. So make sure that it's easy. And this is key. Don't treat everyone the same. I'm not saying that, that you want to discriminate against them. I'm talking about segmenting customers and working out who are your high value customers, who are the ones that you want to be stepping up a change, who are the ones that you need to keep locked in, your VIPs that are giving you your large chunk of business but can't necessarily grow. How can I treat them in one way and then treat my tail that I'm trying to shift up in another way? So make sure you've segmented what you're trying to do with each customer. And whilst keeping it simple, you can still create that degree of difference in your program. And then finally, don't overinvest in the base level reward. So if you are going to have a program where you're trying to think, well, I need it to be achievable for people, but then you get to a point where it's quite easy for everybody to achieve that base level, and you potentially have ended up rewarding people for not really doing anything other than they were doing already. So that's one of the biggest mistakes, is that you've got to structure it in such a way that you're prompting enough change, you're trying to promote loyalty, you're trying to reward them for something to go a little bit further. So you want to reward them for what they're doing, but you want them to reward them for what they're doing more. So you don't want to give away too much at the beginning. So those are our top 5 tips. I'm now just going to quickly rattle through sort of how to implement loyalty, because a number of you obviously have said you don't have anything in place. And I think the first things you need to do is ask yourself some key questions. You're on here doing some research. I would ask you this question: is your company going to benefit from having a loyalty program? What would it achieve? I would argue that the answer probably is always yes, but then I probably would say that, given that I'm involved in this business, in this sector. But just think about what is going to be the benefits. I think you will benefit, but just work out what it is that you will benefit from. And if you agree that it's going to work, then what should you offer to promote loyalty? And once you've decided what you should offer, think about how you're going to communicate it, and what can you do with A, the data that you've already got to help you shape that, and B, what are you going to do with the data that the program kicks off, and how are you going to analyze what's working and what's not. So here are some eight steps, and these I can send this slide deck to anyone who requests it afterwards, and I'll email it over to you. So our simple 8 steps. Step number 1 sounds obvious, but believe me, it's not always obvious when we come to talking about it with people. Understand your customer and really understand what is it that motivates them. So put yourself in their shoes and try and work out what is it that makes them want to work with you. So step 1, understand your customer. 2, understand what you're implementing in terms of loyalty. So what is it you're trying to achieve and why? And really write all this down and have a roadmap for this. So the key thing with loyalty is that you don't want to reward what people are doing already, other than maybe with your VIP customers who you want to lock in, who are already spending a large chunk, and if you lost them, that would be a worry. But you can still change their behaviors and turn them into advocates. So identify the behaviors you want to change. What is it that you want to change, and how are you going to go about achieving it? So this is step 4. What would you give to reward that change? So what is it that you're going to, what if you could get a percentage of your customers to spend a little bit more, how much would you be prepared to give away for that? So this is the understanding the emotional question and the financial question. Then make your offer very customer centric. So make it really, really personalized and attractive to the customers. And understand that loyalty isn't just about a repeat purchase. So a little bit like what I said before, what you don't want to be doing is just rewarding people for doing exactly the same. To a certain degree, you want their repeat purchase, but actually what you want them is to do a little bit more, whether that be changing their buying behaviors, referring you, giving you feedback. It could be many different things. Then create the right loyalty solution for your customer and you. And I mention and you because sometimes one can get a little bit wrapped up in going, we need a loyalty program, we need to be giving stuff away to people. And you actually forget these bits at the beginning, which is why you're doing this. So make sure that the solution is right for you and right for the customer and right for customers in their different segments. And then once you've started on the process, don't sit back and wait and congratulate yourself that it seems to be going right. Implement it, communicate it well, and then measure, and evolve and continuously improve it. And if you get all those right, I would say that's a very good start point for a very successful start to a campaign. You can then start to look at all of the other things that we talked about in terms of how you evolve and stand out. Remember, customer experience is key, and that one size doesn't fit all. So what works for one sector won't work for another sector. Arguably, what works for one set of customers won't work for another set of customers. So think about this carefully. In how can you make yourself stand out in your sector by doing something that's different, and how can you make your customers feel wanted? And some of the techniques and ideas I've given you in here hopefully help. So I've rattled on for 40 minutes, so I'm going to allow you to ask some questions, but just some final thoughts before we go. These are our key takeaways. So first of all, I would say the key lesson is, if you haven't got something in place, start small, keep it simple and easy, and get customers engaged in it. So keep it, not trying to be too complex. Start small, keep it simple, allow customers to engage. Set your objectives early. So right from the beginning, understand what you're trying to achieve, set out a roadmap of where you'd like it to go, and then measure, 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 and use the data. So the most powerful thing that comes out of all of this is data. And we all have a lot of data in our businesses, but we don't use it enough and we don't analyze it enough. So make sure that you're using the data to evolve your offering. And I think this is one of the things, I haven't mentioned this yet. This is the one of the things that really will help you make it stand out, is that we too often see sales and marketing departments not talking together, let alone the whole company. So loyalty really should be a part of your DNA. And if you are going to be a business that has loyalty as a centerpiece, and the most successful businesses that do this, loyalty does not sit within marketing. Okay, loyalty is actually its own separate channel that's focused on as a key pillar of the business. So if you want loyalty to work, you've got to get the whole business on board. That clearly starts with the sales and marketing team, but it also needs to flow through to customer services and anyone involved in any sort of customer touch point. So actually making loyalty part of your DNA will make you stand out. And my final thing is, think, what is it that could make you stand out? I've given you a whole load of ideas here. I hope they've been useful. I'll just finish on one thing, which is we run a monthly loyalty clinic where it's free for you to attend. You can have a half-hour slot. You can come to us with your challenge, and it's a bit of free consultation. So our next one is a week tomorrow, actually, Friday the 28th of August. So if you want to join that, just email me and we can give you a slot. But thank you for listening. I'm now going to go to the Q&A session and see if we've got some questions. Right, so let me just read and take a sip of water. So first one is asking me, have I noticed an impact on success because of COVID? Just interested. Well, the answer is that I think now people realize that, you know, we are in challenging times, and the answer probably to that is yes, because people are suddenly realizing that keeping the customers they've got could not be more important. So yes, the clients that we are working with that have loyalty programs are continuing to invest in them. None of them have switched any of them off. We've done some extensions, and we're doing quite a lot to support customers getting back to work and businesses getting back to work. So yes is the answer to that. In terms of, one's asking, do you have an example of a VI Pro program you've seen done well, like you're talking about now? I've got some examples that we could, we've got some examples that we could share with you afterwards. If whoever's asked that question sends me an email, I can share some examples. Another question here, which industry has the most potential for loyalty programs? Well, I think without doubt, if you are in a business where, if you think about how most people engage with loyalty programs in the retail space, if you do have a business where there is a frequent purchase from you, so a regular reason for engaging with your business, then you are probably going to be more likely to have success quickly with loyalty, because the fact that you've got customers regularly interacting with you probably means that there are other suppliers out there vying for that interaction. So where you have a competitive industry sector where a loyalty program could help you stand out from your competitors, then that is the case. That applies to a variety. So we work across both B2B and B2C, and there are those sectors that don't have a requirement for it. It's just more likely to be engaged with if you have a regular purchasing. Would you say that points-based programs are more successful than other types of loyalty schemes for a B2B SME? Well, probably similar to what I've just answered. A points program for B2B is very easy to get into your customer's mindset. So they understand the concept of a points program because they're consumers. So that really depends on what your business is. So it could be a question. I think that's come from someone called Harry. So Harry, that could be a question to ask later. It depends what your sector is. it could be that if you've got frequency of purchase, that yes, the answer is that. There isn't really an answer to that question, but hopefully that's. I'm just sorry, I'm trying to multitask and read. Would you recommend starting a loyalty scheme from the get-go of your business, or build up a customer base and then introduce a loyalty program? I would probably say the latter, but it very much depends on your business. So the great thing you can do with a loyalty program is, as I said, you don't have to reward just purchases. So if growing the business and getting referrals and effectively a member get member program could add real value to you. So it really depends. You need a low cost solution to start with, because as a startup, I'm guessing you don't have necessarily a lot of money to invest in a loyalty program. So, but and it also depends on whether you are distributing product or manufacturing product, and therefore what your margin is. So again, that could be a question for a loyalty clinic if you wanted to attend that. What's that? I'm sorry, I'm just going through them. So this one has said, thank you, Mark, a great webinar. I want to increase my offline consumers' lifetime value. What is the best way to track them? Without knowing how you are already tracking them, I presume that you have data. So if you've got data, then it's about understanding how we could interpret that data and then engaging them, finding a way of engaging them. So again, without more context, it's difficult to answer that question. So happy to answer that on an email. I'm looking to increase my referral rate. What would be your top tip to move my customers' loyalty to advocacy? I think, again, slightly depends on what your product or service is. But if you have already loyal customers, then those are the guys to go for first. So if they already are loyal, happy customers, then people are probably already happy to refer. I mean, there's a very interesting stat in the B2B space that I think 87% of happy customers would happily refer, but only 11% of companies ever ask them. So the first thing to start is actually ask your customers whether they would refer another customer to you. And the answer surprisingly might be yes, without any sort of reward. If you just put a little reward in there, and I can give you some ideas on that, you could increase that. I think that deals with most of the questions. Oh, what have we got here? I'm guessing this is you guys, but how do you manage your gamifying purchases like a CRM? Yeah, I'm not sure if you're asking whether you're selling CRMs. How do you manage gamifying purchases? Well, I'd need some more time to think about that one. So whoever that anonymous attendee is, I can come back to you. I probably can answer these questions at a later point. Chloe will confirm that later. Are there any CRM system requirements you would advise having in place before setting up a loyalty scheme? One concern is that any loyalty scheme would be labor intensive and manual for us, as our CRM doesn't have the functions we need to do this automatically. Well, that is something that can be built for you in terms of interpreting your data. I think the biggest challenge that always comes is not having the right data. So the key is how are you capturing customer data, transaction data, anything else that you're looking to reward. So it's a longer question than I can answer without knowing some more detail, and happy to look at that in more detail. Sorry, I can't answer all these questions. I think I've probably answered all. So any that we haven't answered, we can come back to. Chloe, do you want to step in here?
Mark, thank you so much for taking the time to join us on this webinar. I'm sure our audience will agree that was a really great session. Do you have any final words before we sign off?
My final words are that I mean, it'd be interesting to see the poll again. Can we bring up the poll again, see if we've got more answers? Can we do that, Clay? Can I do that? Okay, we haven't had more. So a large percentage of you are saying that you don't have a loyalty program in place. So I would just reiterate, if anyone wants this deck, please send me an email. The email is on the screen now, mark@streamcoms.com, and I'll share this deck with you. I think look at some of the advice in here. This is gleaned from many years of running loyalty programs in both consumer space and business space, and a lot of our work is in B2B. So just think about, what is it you are trying to reward, and will loyalty work for you? I'm pretty sure the answer is yes. Uh, Come along to one of our loyalty clinics if you can spare the time, and bring your challenge, and we will happily talk through things with you. But just the final word is, if you are thinking about loyalty, start small, keep it simple, and make sure that you measure and evolve. And thanks for your time. There is no doubt that loyalty is going to be very prevalent over the coming months as we get back to some form of the new normal, and keeping customers and engaging them and using them to get you more customers will never be more important than now. So thanks for your time. I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you want to talk at all, give us an email. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I have included Mark's LinkedIn profile and email address in the comment section. So if you do have any questions or require the slides from today, then you can reach out to him using one of those links. Our next webinar in the Lockdown for Learning Business series takes place on Monday, the 24th of August at 2 p.m. Protecting your business, why business insurance has never been more important, with Starling Bank and Superscript. If there is anything you'd like to catch up on from today's session, we'll be sending out the replay of the webinar coming at 5 p.m. today. You can find the replay and all future webinars at www.freshbusinessthinking.haysummit.com or by clicking on the link in the comment section. Thank you very much for joining us today, and thank you again, Mark.
Pleasure. Thank you.